So I'm just going to see whether it's going to come on live. Okay, we are live.
Give me a moment, huh?
Sure. Okay, well, it's time. It's actually 8:30 now. So let's get on with it. Let's talk a little bit about mental health awareness. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tino, as you know. And with me here, I have Kit, whom you saw last week. No, the week before, when we were talking about hiring, right? Because he's a recruitment expert. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about mental health. And Kit, in actual fact, is a health consultant. Ever since I've known Kit, Kit has always been very much aware of his health, and he's always been looking after himself. His size has not changed. In actual fact, he has gotten even much slimmer than I remember him before. And Kit has always been into health a lot more than I have. Me, I learned a lot from Kit, in actual fact, in terms of health and staying sane, keeping your mental health up in that sense to be aware of what's happening with you. Okay, so welcome, Kit.
Okay. Hi. Hi. Thanks for having me on your session again.
Yeah, you're most welcome, man. So, Kit, tell me a little bit. Since we have known each other in college days, you have always been a health freak. So, what has gotten you to this point?
Well, I mean, I've not always been a health freak. I think what happened was back in, if I go back to 2000, I think year 2000, yeah, that was when I started my first business. I think that was when the Subway business that I acquired back in 2000 took off, and I started a business at the age of about 28. And what happened was that was my first business venture with a couple of friends, and without any expectations, I have started this business in 3 months, and I jumped right into it, and not knowing what I got myself into as an entrepreneur. It's funny now when I look back, back then, but it wasn't funny at all back then, So when I started the business, there was a lot of stress. I hardly slept. I was working 14-hour shift, running an outlet, and with lack of rest, no proper meals, stress, that led me to some health issues, and I thought I was sick somehow, but I didn't know what was wrong with myself, right? So I went through all the specialists to get myself checked out, and none of them could find anything wrong with me. And what happened was I got so sick and tired of it, because I spent thousands of dollars, seeing all these specialists, the best gastro specialists, the best neuro specialists, the best heart specialists. None of them, said there was anything wrong with me. So I got sick and tired of it, and I went on a self-healing journey. I changed my lifestyle. I changed the way I eat. I changed the food I take. I exercise on a daily basis, and that took a turn. So I started seeing all these changes in me, and it improved. So then I got very intrigued with what happened, and I went on this journey of learning more about health, and because I believe that we can heal ourselves with the right methodology, with the right information, with the right education. You can. So I got into that. I got into that journey, and I picked up a certification along the way. It was like a diploma certification as a holistic health coach. And then I have since then been practicing holistic health coaching, I think since 2014. 2014. So I put people with health issues back on track. I help them heal themselves. Correct their lifestyle with a bit of tweaking in their lifestyle, the way they eat, having sufficient rest, having the right mindset. They would be able to help heal themselves. So that was how I got into it. But of course, it's a long journey from where I came from. But I'm very glad that I picked up that certification, because it has helped me as well, having acquired those knowledge in terms of how I can actually help someone, but at the same time helping myself as well, and also my loved ones. Yeah, that was my journey.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And our good friend Victor Leong is online with us today.
Oh, hello, Victor. Victor is an avid health freak also.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he worked up. When he was in college, he was a scrawny little. He was tall but he was
tall and scrawny.
Yeah, he wasn't as
now
big.
You don't want to mess with him.
Yeah,
his biceps are bigger than my thighs.
Yeah, man, scary. Okay, we want to talk about mental health awareness. So, stress happened to be one of the #1 killer, right? In Malaysia, in actual fact, a lot of people fall victim to stress, and then they either get stroke, hypertension, heart attack, and so on and so forth. How do we identify with stress? Because I don't know, how can we really identify with stress? What are some of the signs or symptoms to it?
I think stress is a very how should I put it? Stress is, a lot of people do not associate chronic disease with stress.
Right.
They associate chronic disease more with bad eating habits, right? But in fact, stress is the #1 cause of a lot of deaths around the world, not just in Malaysia alone. Because when a person is stressed out, it triggers off a lot of biochemical reaction in the body. And one of the things that the body does is that it will immediately produce a hormone called cortisol. So cortisol is a stress management hormone, right? Mm-hmm. And cortisol actually has a lot of negative effect in the body itself. And one of the things that it does is it also triggers off the body to retain fat, right? Of course, you will see there are 2 types of genetic makeup. Some people, when they're stressed out, they eat, right? They go for all the comfort food, right? They go stress eating. The other type is they don't eat at all because they don't feel like eating. They don't have the mood to eat, right? The other one is, superb mood. They just eat anything that comes along the way. So those are the two very obvious effects that you would find yourself getting into when you're all stressed out. So I guess you know yourself more. You just think back and see, whenever you're stressed out, what do you do? Do you have mood to eat, or do you feel like eating all the time? So what happens is, when a majority of the people when they're stressed out, you're looking at at least about 60% of the people in the world would stress eat, right? Look for their comfort food and they stress eat. And then what happens is that when they overeat, they put on the pounds, and over time, plus being sedentary, you have all sorts of issues when you're putting on weight. Of course, then the first major issue is diabetes. You get diabetic if you don't control your weight over time. But of course, this takes a long time to develop. It's not just an overnight process. But so you can still change. You can still change its course if you are able to realize that you are getting into that path, and you can change its course by changing your habits. But if you don't, then you're well on your way to being diabetic, and being diabetic comes with a whole string of other chronic diseases, heart disease, liver problems, all sorts of stuff. It's a package deal. You become diabetic, you get all kinds of other diseases that comes along with it, and so when people look at diabetes, what is the problem? People always say, oh, you're eating a lot of sugar, you're taking a lot of sugar, you're eating wrong and stuff like that. But in actual fact, the root cause of the problem is not eating the wrong food. The root cause of the problem is stress, because stress triggers off all these hormones that makes you want to eat or makes you want to not eat at the same time, right? So it depends on which category you fall under. So yeah, stress is a major cause of a lot of health issues, which a lot of people don't really associate with, or can't really associate with.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are stressed, but they don't know about it.
Yeah. And because they're so used, and also they're so used to it already. So when you're in, and some people thrive on it. I know friends who thrives on being stressed because they get this adrenaline rush that comes with it, right? When they're all stressed out. Yeah, it sounds funny, but it is a fact.
Yeah. So that's why it's, some people when they get stressed, like you said, they stress eat, then they put on the pounds, and then they suddenly realize that, oh, damn, I'm overweight, I need to exercise. So then they start doing a lot of exercises to slim down.
Yeah.
Now, is that a good thing to do?
So I see a lot of, because a lot of my, over the past 15 to 17 years of my coaching experience, I see a lot of people going on to the extreme when they take a turn, right? Because usually it happens when there's a health scare, right? Something happens to them, suddenly they wake up, and then they take a turn and they go on to the extreme. They run. I see a lot of people running nowadays.
Yes.
In fact, running. I'm not putting down on running. I used to be a runner, but I have stopped running because there are a lot of signs that points to running as a bad sport, so to speak. I know a lot of runners would hate me for this, but the new science have proven that. But that's another story for another day. So I've stopped running. I see a lot of people run, and they run marathons. They do ultra marathons. They are stressing themselves. When you do endurance races, the body goes through a lot of stress. Is that good or is that bad? Well, long-term wise is bad, because when you're stressing your body, whether it's mental stress or physical stress, the body always produces more cortisol to manage your stress, right? So when there's when your body is overflowing with cortisol, it has a lot of it does a lot of biochemical damage to the body internally, which we do not know. One of the other things that endurance racers would go through is oxidative stress as well, because when you run or when you cycle or when you do any endurance races, you breathe in a lot because you need the oxygen, right, to be supporting the body, what the body is going through, while you're going through the races. And this stress, oxidative stress that happens internally, is the dark side of oxygen, because oxygen basically oxidizes your body internally. A good example would be an apple. When you cut it into half and you leave it in the open, it turns brown. So that browning effect is oxidative stress taking place on the apple itself. And that process takes place in the body when you breathe in copious amounts of oxygen, when you're going through endurance races. So the body is actually rusting. The other example would be metal. When it's exposed, it rusts. So that is also another form of oxidative stress. So to put it in a very simple layman term, internally you rust as you go through more endurance races or long periods of high intensity workouts.
Yeah. Okay.
So to sum it up, no, it's not good when you overwork yourself. There must be some form of moderation, in whatever you do. Yeah, you need that balance. Yes.
Yeah, like they said, everything in moderation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had two comments here. Victor is saying that I think stress management needs more emphasis, which I agree as well, because often people say that you should lessen stress in life. Easier said than done, definitely, right?
Yeah.
Especially now in this pandemic, where a lot of people are affected by the financials, by work, by working at home. Sometimes people working at home find it a lot more stressful than it is working in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah, we human beings, we love the interaction with others. But sometimes over interactions with our loved ones at home can be very stressful, as a matter of fact, especially if you have smaller children or younger children. Yeah. So it can be stressful. Do you think that the mind and the body can be trained to manage stress? Or
yes, you can, but there must be conscious effort to do that. You got to do it consciously. You got to consistently remind yourself and turn that into a habit. Because when you're under stress, basically your animal instincts activates because you're in a survival mode. Right? When you're in survival mode, everything changes. Your focus is just on surviving. You couldn't be bothered with a lot of other stuff. So you have to take that conscious effort in managing stress yourself. Because if you don't, then your survival instinct takes over, and it will be just out of your control.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, if I understand what you're saying, then stress can be avoided or stress can be managed, right?
Yeah, there are ways to do it. Of course, like I said, you just have to consciously put in the effort to take steps to manage it.
Okay. So tell us a little bit now. I remember you gave me six things that we can do to manage our to stay sane working from home, or to not avoid but manage the stress. One of the things that you said is create routines. Now, can you elaborate that a little bit more? What do you mean by creating a routine?
So when I've worked from home. Prior to the pandemic, I've worked from home before, but not long periods of time, right? So when the pandemic happened, we were first locked up for 3 months, and we were literally, we literally can't go anywhere, and we just stuck at home, and I'm on the computer on phone calls 24/7. So there were days where I found myself at the end of the day, I have not I've woken up, I've not showered, I've not brushed my teeth. I just jumped into a call for the whole damn day, right? From 8 to 5, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then and then that went on for like, it became a routine sometimes. And that line of between personal space and workspace have blurred, right? When it's time for personal time and when it's time for work. So that has blurred, right? I also found myself having lunch in front of my computer, having a call, and breakfast as well sometimes. So I think it's important. One of the problems that we have in terms of being at home and being in the office working, the routines are totally different, right? So what you need to do is you need to create a specific routine that mimics your routine in the office. So you got to draw that line. That line has to be clearly drawn. That you set schedules. From time to time, what do you actually do on a daily basis? If it is time for lunch, you break for lunch. You don't have your lunch in front of the computer. You don't do your calls while you're having lunch. Just have the 1 hour strictly for lunch, right? And you take that break. And if your time to clock off, you clock off at 5 or 6 or whatever time that you're supposed to clock off, you make sure you clock off and you switch off your computer. So those routines are very, very important that you have to set them in place. So then you are able to compartmentalize it and manage it like how you would do it, when you're working from the office.
Yeah. Okay. So creating.
By the way, one more point. I know of some people who wakes up, they go through their regular routines, the pre-pandemic routines, and they dress up as well. They put on their work attire just to make themselves feel like they're in the office.
Yeah, they're going to the office.
Yeah. Some people do that as well.
Yeah, I think in the fact of working from home, a lot of us had no experience working from home. You and I, we have experience working from home even before this pandemic. I started my company 7 years ago, and I've been working at home since. But I think it's important, which I read somewhere as well, and I totally agree with it, is that we need to create a space within the home environment as a space where we are actually working. So when we stepped in, we are working. The moment we step out, it's out of the office kind of a situation.
Yeah.
And I think people at home will also understand that the moment you're in that space, you are already in the office. It's time not to disturb you and wait for you to come out. So home. Like that is actually good. And you also said about having breaks. So while you're doing the routines, and I think you mentioned it, if you're gonna have your lunch, don't eat your lunch in front of the computer while working.
Correct.
Have good breaks like that.
Yep.
Bio breaks as well, I suppose.
Yep. I think that routine must have a schedule to it, and you have to stick to that schedule.
Yeah.
Because if not, then everything will be blurred, and you don't know when you're supposed to do what, and that adds on the stress, because you will find. I often find myself during the first lockdown. I often find myself not being able to finish the work that I'm supposed to finish, and yet, having worked from 8 till 6, 7 o'clock, but I still have a lot of work that is not done or completed, right? So that itself, it's bad. It piles on the stress more.
Yeah, and I know that for a fact that when people are working from home, actually during the beginning of this, when people were working from home, they were actually working more hours at home than they actually do in the office.
Yeah, a lot of my clients that I talk to, whenever I ask them the question, how are you doing? They say, oh, I'm busier than ever, because now they have to work and perform their house chores at the same time, especially working moms, right?
Yeah.
You've got screaming kids, going through their online classes, not being able to focus, running around. So, on one hand, she's on the con call, on the other hand, you've got a kid screaming in the heads off. Yeah. So that also adds on the stress.
Yeah, that adds on to the stress. But we also talk a little bit about exercise, which is the third thing that you said to me is exercise, regular exercise, not overstressing the body physically, but a good, even a 45 minutes brisk walk, is that good enough to help us manage stress?
Yeah, I think 20 to 45 minutes walk, that would be good enough to help you manage that stress. Of course, if you're able to do something a little bit more with a bit more high intensity, you get to sweat, that would be even better, because when you exercise and when you stress, when you exercise and when you sweat, it triggers off the body to produce happy chemicals. These are hormones, endorphins, epinephrine, a lot of other, a whole concoction of happy chemicals that makes you feel good. So that's why a lot of times because I was a runner before, right? So a lot of times when I run, I feel good after a run, and you get addicted to that. And I'm pretty sure Victor would fully understand what I'm talking about, when he go pump his iron, right?
Yeah.
It's that feeling after the workout, the feel good feeling that you're going after every time when you work out. And I'm sure all those people out there who exercises or who does endurance races would know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. The other thing that we could also do that you have also mentioned is learning to meditate, which I tried. Honestly, I tried, and I still can't do it. I know you have given me quite a few tools to learn to meditate, but till today, I still can't quite get it. So meditation and this buzzword, this big word now that is on everybody's lip is mindfulness, practicing mindfulness, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more. I think that's something which is a lot of us are not aware of. Meditation, yes, but mindfulness, what is all that?
Well, I'm still learning all this. I have been meditating for close to 7 years already. I started off just dabbling into it. The first 2 years, not consistent with the practice. Initially, I thought it was some woo-woo stuff. It has a lot of what do you call it, religious connotations to it. But in actual fact, meditation has zero religious connotations to it. It's just that it so happens that most religion practices meditation, one form or another. Performing a prayer is a form of meditation. It's just a way to focus your mind on certain things. That's what we do during a meditation, right? So I found myself having a lot more clarity, and I have a stronger sense of intuition, after having practiced for so many years. That was the benefit that I found got out of practicing meditation for so many years. I'm still learning. It's still very new to me. I follow quite a number of meditation teachers online. And for mindfulness, I have a friend in Singapore who is a mindfulness teacher, who currently works for 𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗬, a very famous, renowned wellness resort. So he practices mindfulness and he teaches mindfulness. I got this from one of the mindfulness teacher that I'm following. How she defines mindfulness, or how she interprets mindfulness, is the art of bringing your awareness into the present moment. It's focusing on in the present, and it's basically at a waking state of the left brain practice. So that is mindfulness. That's how she defines it. It's focusing on the present, focusing your attention in the present. For example, focusing on your breathing is mindfulness practice. Thinking of something at the present moment is mindfulness practice. Because your mind wanders all over the place all the time. You're always thinking about, oh, shoot, did I buy milk? Or did I feed the dog? Or did I lock the door? Your mind is constantly all over the place, right? So mindfulness is just refocusing the mind to the present instead of thinking of anything else.
And there was a few comments coming in while you were talking. Evelyn was saying, Victor says that I still can't quiet my monkey mind. And you're right. As you said, it's very difficult to keep your mind quiet, especially if you have high internal dialogue. You tend to talk to yourself quite a bit. Then Evelyn was saying, find some quiet time doing nothing in solitude, and it can give you some peace and reduce your stress. That, I think, it's meditation, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
And Sheena was saying, do something that you are very passionate about. That can also be another mode of de-stress.
Correct. Yeah. Some people paint. Some people put jigsaw puzzles together. Some people take a nap.
Take a nap.
Yeah.
How does that help?
So, well, I mean, Vic, there's a lot of confusion out there, with practicing mindfulness or meditation, because a lot of people think that you have to quiet your mind, you have to think of nothing, while you practice mindfulness or you meditate. There is no such thing as quieting that monkey brain. You can never quiet a monkey brain. To quiet, to shut that brain up is like asking you to stop breathing.
Right. Okay.
Right. You can never stop breathing. You can never stop thinking. Right. The only time when you stop thinking is when you're 6 feet underground. That's when you stop thinking. So having thoughts running through while you're meditating or while you're practicing mindfulness, that is okay. It's not a cardinal sin. It happens. So that's one of the misconception of meditation. And I only learned this recently. That I thought meditation is you have to quiet your mind, you have to think of nothing, right? That's meditation. No, it's not. It doesn't happen that way.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, kid. So if I go out to the driving range and practice my golf, is that meditation?
That is mindfulness, because you're focusing on your ball, right? And your goal is to hit the ball into the hole. So that is mindfulness, because you're very present. Your objective is to put the ball in the hole. That's it. So that's mindfulness.
Okay. Now, mindfulness is such a buzzword right now. A lot of organizations is doing mindfulness program for their people.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe in your own experience, why are companies engaging in this kind of program nowadays?
Of course, now with the pandemic, post-pandemic, I think it's going even more mainstream now with mindfulness and meditation, because there are a lot of new science that's pointing towards a lot more benefits when you practice mindfulness and meditation, and a lot of companies are recognizing that because of the science, right? You'll be surprised that I read this article in Forbes magazine that a lot of the major Fortune 500 company CEOs meditates, right? and all this comes from the leaders of corporations. So when the leaders are seeing all these differences in themselves after having practiced, mindfulness and meditation, they see the benefits, and they basically cascaded that practice down in the organization. So a lot of the Fortune 500 companies now have a mindfulness program within the company for the employees, because it's so damn stressful, right? It's on going to work, seeing someone that you hate at work, and there's a lot of stress in work, in the workplace, having to meet KPIs, dealing with people that you don't like to deal with, chasing after numbers.
Yeah.
So mindfulness has helped. Has made a lot of changes in the corporate environment, and I think that is picking up along the way, even more so after the pandemic.
Yeah. Okay, quick question here. We got a comment from Johnny. He's saying, drink until sleep. That's the devil in disguise, so-called, right? The more you drink, I suppose it doesn't get the stress, but it creates a lot more stress when you depend on it.
Yeah, well, okay, that's one thing that I've thought that, always thought that it helps when you're stressed out and you have a drink or more, and most of the time you end up with more drinks than you should. I used to think that when you drink you can sleep better, but in actual fact you don't, because I have personally experienced that, and I now know that, of course, with science, a lot of research, that when you drink, you can fall asleep faster, but you don't actually go into deep sleep.
Deep sleep,
right?
Yeah.
So you sleep, you're in the light sleep phase, you're not in the deep sleep phase. So the brain doesn't go into deeper levels of rest, because you have different brain waves while you sleep, beta, theta. It's I won't get into the science of that, but if you want, you can do a lot of. You can just ask Mr. Google. Google will tell you everything. So when you drink, you fall asleep faster, but you don't go into deep sleep. So you wake up the next day thinking that you have slept through the night, but in actual fact, you feel a lot more tired because you're not well rested.
Yeah.
Right? Because the body doesn't go into deep rest.
Yeah.
So that's a misconception most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I did was I have this sleep tracker, which is a ring that tracks my sleep, and I can see the difference in the data. The nights when I drink and the nights that I don't drink, what is my restfulness like, and it's very obvious that when I drink, I fall asleep faster, but I don't get deep rest.
Yeah.
Because of my heart rate. Because when you drink, your heart rate goes up, right?
Yeah.
So my heart rate is, when I'm asleep, my heart rate is still high. So when the heart rate is still high, the body doesn't go into rest, proper rest, doesn't get proper rest.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So don't think, if you want to sleep better, you're going to take a drink. It's okay to take a drink or two, but most of the time when you drink too much, it's harder to get to sleep than get a better rest than not drinking, as compared to not drinking. Yeah.
Victor is saying, go and blame your college friends for all this drinking binge.
Yeah lah. Victor being one of them lah.
Yeah, Victor being one of them, that's true. I think this relates to having proper rest as well. So when you have good deep sleep, I think the next morning you wake up, you're more fresh. It's not about the long hours of sleep, but the hours of sleep, the quality of sleep. Yeah, that's right.
So two of the things that you want to, of course, I mean, if you can afford it, of course, buy a form of a tracker. You know, there are plenty around.
Yeah.
The cheap ones, the expensive ones, but they do you know, a pretty good job. Even, you know, you buy a tracker for like 50, 60 ringgit, that will do the job. It gives you an idea. It's not super accurate, but it gives you an idea, right? To track your sleep. Two things that you want to look for is your REM sleep and your deep sleep. Those two indicators are very, very important to give you an idea whether you are properly rested or not. The longer the REM sleep, rapid eye movement, REM is the abbreviation for rapid eye movement. The longer your REM sleep is, the better it is. Also, it's also associated with mortality rate. The shorter REM sleep you have, the shorter of the life that you have as well. That is linked, you know, the scientific research linking to that. Deep sleep as well is also a very important indicator. The longer the deep sleep you have, the better well rested the body is to prepare you for the following day. You know, so get yourself a tracker. I think that helps. You know, $50, $60, that would do the job. Yes, the one that you're wearing, that's Samsung.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
That's good enough to because I do check the app and see how deep my sleep is or how long my deep sleep is.
Yes.
But usually it's not very long, so I try to have that.
Okay. Well, I think sleep is the most underrated health habit that a lot of people take into consideration. But sleep deprivation is at an alarming rate because of a lot of things, because of stress, because of electronics, you know, technology, entertainment. So you know, with internet technology, with internet, with handphones, you know, you have access to entertainment just in your hands, right? So yeah, that takes away, that robs a lot of your resting time away as well. One of the worst habits to have, which I'm also guilty of that, is to look at your phone before you go to bed. You know, that's a really, really bad habit that I'm trying to get rid of. But of course, there are ways to counter that as well. So if you can't get away from your phone or you can't get away from your computer, get yourself a blue light blocker glasses, a good pair of blue light blocker glasses that will prevent the blue light from hitting your eyes. You know, that would trigger off the brain to stop producing melatonin, you know, which is a sleep hormone.
Okay.
That would help as well. So that is highly recommended. So I got myself, so to counter all these bad habits, I know I can't, it's very hard to peel away the phone from my hands at night. So I have to look at alternatives to work around it. So I got myself a pair of blue light blocker glasses to help me with my sleep. Yeah.
Okay. But some of the phones also, they have blue light deterrent. Where you
well, I mean, they of course, the mobile phone makers, they promote it, you know, in a way that it helps, but in actual fact, it doesn't. A lot of science have proven that the light emission from the phone itself, it changes in color, but it doesn't change in the frequency of the light.
Okay.
So you still get that effect. It still hits you, and it still prevents your brain from producing melatonin to help you fall asleep. Yeah.
Right. Okay. One last area for you to help us understand a little bit more. It's about nutrition. Okay. I think a lot of us don't really look into the food that we eat, right? To help us manage stress or even manage our health overall, right? So in next few minutes, could you just share with us what would be your advice on nutrition? What would be a good kind of food to take? I know like people keep saying, take a lot of veggies, 3/4 of your plate should be veggies, or half of your plate should be veggies, and then 1 protein, and then plus a little bit of carb. So what kind of nutrition advice can you give us?
Of course, now with the pandemic, a lot of people are eating a lot healthier because they have no choice but to cook at home, right? So you have better control of what you put into your body. I think as a general rule of thumb, of course, you need to have all the greens on your plate, and also good protein source, and also a healthy form of carbs, which is non-refined carbs. The good carbs itself.
What is non-refined carb?
Non-refined carbs, that means carbohydrates that has not been processed. So things like brown rice, quinoa, those are healthy carbs. Sweet potato, those are healthy carbs, right? Those are considered as complex carbs. Things like white rice, those are refined. It has been processed before, because the rice itself has been the husk from the rice has been removed, so it has gone through some form of process. So the best thing is to ensure that you take non-processed food as much as possible. But let's face the fact, let's face reality, right? Because most of the time now, whatever that we eat are all processed, unless if you move yourself out of the city and build a house in the jungle, grow your own plants, rear your own chicken and cow. I think you'll be eating most food that has been processed one way or another. So in the current situation, I think people have better choices in terms of picking their food. But as soon as the world reopens again after the pandemic, I think the most important thing is to eat as much as whole foods, foods that hasn't been processed before. And I know it's difficult to take 1-2 kilos of vegetables a day. So supplement is a very convenient way of ensuring that you get the nutrition that you're supposed to get, right, on a daily basis. And a lot of the natural whole foods, by the time it reaches us, it has already depleted in nutrients, right? Because they could be coming from the West. They could, 30 days on a boat, on a ship, before it reaches your table. So all the nutrients have already been depleted along the way. So you have, I think in our times now, you have to supplement. Supplement is a non-negotiable alternative to ensure that the body gets a sufficient supplement, the right supplement, the right nutrition.
Okay, so just avoid processed food like white.
As a general rule of thumb, of course.
So if I were to say, let's just take a simple way of looking at it on my plate, in terms of percentage, if I were to divide it into a certain percentage, how much green should I be eating?
So if you do an eyeball portioning, in terms of greens, it will be a knuckle size.
What?
A knuckle size. Fist size.
Fist size.
Fist size, yes. Of greens. Yeah. Okay. Or more, right? But minimum a fist size of it. In terms of protein, it will be a palm size at least a palm size.
Okay.
Of course, a bigger size person would have a bigger palm. It's just an eyeball portion. And then, of course, then your carbs, you want to limit it as much as possible, unless if you're taking good carbs. And it also depends on the kind of work that you do. So if your work or your work requires you to do more physical activities, then of course your carbs has to be more, along with the vegetables as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be a very simple way of looking at it.
Using sort of portioning by using your sight.
We call it eyeball portioning.
Eyeball, okay. Okay, one last question.
Yes.
We have been told long ago that fat food like bacon, suyo, roasted meat and were not good for cholesterol and all this. But recently, I think there has been a study done to say that sort of fatty food like this are good. Am I wrong or am I right?
Yes, depending on who you talk to, of course, the general public will still view fat as the evil, as an evil for our health. But all the keto practitioners, all the paleo practitioners would say, fat is good. So it depends on how you're looking at it. Of course, over consuming, of anything would be bad for you. So you need to have that balance. Again, that would be my general rule of thumb. You must have that balance. But fat doesn't make you fat. Sugar makes you fat. So sugar is the main culprit of bad health habits. So what you really need to control is sugar and refined carbs as a general rule of thumb.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you, Kit. Thank you for your time. That's all the time we have for tonight. I hope for all of you who are here with us tonight, hopefully you have learned something, take back something that can help you in terms of managing your stress, whether you're working from home or even stress from the office. Everything in moderation, I suppose. Yeah, that would be something, Kit, you would advise. Do everything in moderation, even exercise and whatnot in moderation. Yeah,
that's what I'm practicing as much as possible to have that balance. I used to be an extremist in terms of the way I look at health, at one point of time. But after years of acquiring a lot of knowledge and research, balance everything in moderation. Holistically, you got to look at it from a holistic perspective. That would be the best practice of all. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Since we don't have the time to answer any more of the questions, but it's good to, if Kit, if you don't mind, maybe perhaps tonight or tomorrow, take a little bit of time to just reply to some of the comments that we have.
Okay, sure. Yeah? Thank you very much for your comments, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys, for your comment, and I think it's great. I hope you all have learned something today and help you to stay sane, either working from home or even stress from the office, right? And if you have more questions, please, by all means, put it into the chat. Kit and I will still be looking up at the chat in the next few days. And if we can help you in any way, give you a little piece of advice, we will be more than happy to do that, right?
Yep.
If you want to get Kit to be your coach, please, by all means, get in contact with him. He's happy to be your health coach anytime. All right, guys, thank you so much for staying with us. Thank you for coming and joining us in our Candid Talk. And we look forward to having you guys another time next week. All right, so thank you. Good night. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on your segment.
Most happy to do that. So we'll catch up again. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Bye. See you. Bye.
Good night.